we got to meet standards and practices, which, as we all know, is a fancy way of saying the censor. And in our case, it was a former Catholic priest, Frank.
He was great.
Who was a lovely man. And you know how in a hostage situation you become friends with the person who's keeping you. Yeah, so
Stockholm Syndrome.
Yes, you could say. Yes, we experienced that with Frank. But he was a lovely man. And some of the suggestions were very helpful. I think the one that was, two that were very helpful was, you can't make the straight people the villains and the gay people the good guys. It has to have
balance.
Balance, that was their word. And I think that was very helpful because in the movie, the young man, Michael, his father, played by Ben Gazzara, the young man was Aidan Quinn. He was not too happy that his son was gay. In fact, he wanted to punch him. But as we wrote the script, we discovered something really important about the father, which he was not a villain. He said, what really upsets me is that all these years I thought I knew who you were, and I didn't because you never shared that with us. And I think that's what hurt him the most. And that was really important. It really gave a lot of dimension to that father's character so that he wasn't a bad guy. And he said in one scene to his son, you know, that you come back here on your time, on your terms, and you expect us to accept you just like that. Well, that isn't going to happen. And I think Dan and I felt that was fair. He had a point. He had his side to the story. And so it helped in keeping balance, and the other thing was it helped in developing that one character who could have been stereotypic, could have been one-dimensional. And as the story went on, he became a very different character, very supportive and protective of his son. The grandmother of the family, played by Sylvia Sidney, having a dinner scene. Michael's there. His lover, his partner from Chicago, this takes place in Pennsylvania, and his lover from Chicago has come to visit him because he's been, with his parents, he's been sick, and so he came to stay with them. The father, Ben Gazzara, didn't like that very much, and he didn't like him. So they're having a very tense dinner conversation, and Sylvia Sidney's character, the grandmother's at the table. And we had her say to her grandson, Michael, Aidan Quinn, I like your friend. We get a note. She can't say, I like your friend. We said, what's wrong with that? They said, well, by saying that, it means that she is condoning homosexuality. We said, by saying, I like your friend? So we said, well, we're going to figure out some way that she can say that. So Michael's friend had an antique store, but the kind of like Third Avenue kind of, Third Street antique store, you know, with like old jukeboxes,
radios,
and you know, stuff from the
Deco
40s
kind of stuff.
and goofy fun stuff. And so instead, the grandmother says to the friend, I hear you can fix old things, repair old things, and she gives like kind of a look at Ben Gazzara, like he's the old thing that needs fixing, which is very good. And she says, I hear you can fix old things. And he says, yeah. She says, well, I have this old radio, hasn't worked since Jack Benny went off the air. You think you could come over and fix it? And he said, sure. So by giving us a note, I like your friend, which is very generic.
Yeah,
it's a
bald.
nothing line. We somehow came up with something very specific and very much a part of the character, and funny and tricky, and she knew what she was doing, and it gave so much to her character. So that note for us was a great note because it really improved the character and her script. But that's the kind of stuff we would get, those kind of notes that were so infuriating. But that was the atmosphere of the time. But to be fair, to be fair, it was 1985. It's NBC. It's a broadcast network. They were so damn brave to do this show. Perry was such a visionary and so brave and so courageous to do this show at that time. It was just amazing that it was even on.